Hello, everyone. My name is Wil Van Zyl, and I am the CEO of a Toronto-based management firm called Nova Music Group. And I'm honored to have the opportunity to share some insights into my company and just my work experience. So I've had the privilege of representing many artists over the years, and my story began actually as a songwriter where I was given a publishing deal with my songwriting partner, with Warner Chappell. And with that series of incredible events along the way, it propelled me to learn every aspect in this industry, from street promotions to radio airplay, music marketing. And over time, it allowed me to become a successful artist manager where I am today. So that being said, it took many years of hard work to get this far, and dedication to help bring my clients' work to fruition. And over the years, I've represented many top-tier recording artists, Grammy-nominated, Juno Award-winning, multi-platinum producers, and published songwriters. And our firm also represents clients who have film and television careers, and have had the great fortune of being able to travel around the world and work with many major record labels in Canada, the US, the UK, Japan, and other music markets around the globe. So I've also developed music compilations, music projects, and worked with some of the biggest names in the industry today on those projects. And my firm has also synced film, television, large advertising campaigns, and even video games. So you can gather from just what I said there, there's a lot of ways you can become successful in this industry and make some revenue as an artist manager. So I hope the following will be beneficial and inspire you to, take this voyage with me. So this is a career choice that can bring you wealth, but it can also grant you the ability to work for yourself and on your own, and sort of write your own ticket, as they say. You meet amazing new people, you get to travel the world, but the main thing is you can create something that can stand the test of time. It's incredibly rewarding to feel part of a project that potentially wins awards, or you hear a song on the radio for years to come. And just seeing your clients go on to have incredible success is very euphoric, and knowing that you played a role as a manager. So I guess I'll get to the heart of the matter. And the first question you need to ask yourself as an artist before seeking out a manager: is there something to manage? Just being a great singer or having a band, unfortunately, isn't enough. However, it is important to know that a manager can bring a lot to the table, even when you're just getting started. The biggest thing probably an artist manager can give you is the chance to just focus on your music. As you know, they call it the music business, and there's a lot of hard work that goes into building a career in this industry. And for musicians and singers alike, taking on all of the duties of getting your career off the ground can be overwhelming and can cause a lot of mental strain. So many times musicians find themselves chasing down promoters, trying to book gigs, pitching to journalists, and basically that ends up being at the expense of writing new songs or recording material. So a manager can certainly take a lot of pressure off and allow an artist to focus on being creative. But before you proceed, if you're trying to get a manager, you have to ask yourself really the following questions. What experience do you have? And you got to really be honest with yourself when it comes to this. It's a tough question. And sometimes many artists believe they have vast experience, but truly they're just starting out compared to a lot of their competitors. So have you done all that you can also have you been working hard enough to develop your brand and your musical sound? If the answer is yes, then maybe you are in need of guidance and having a manager. But if the answer is no, then you probably need to rethink your daily tasks and reevaluate your goals to get on the right path. There certainly is no shortcut, and most overnight successes are actually years in the making, and I'm sure many of you have heard that. So, firstly, have you gained any live performance experience? Performing out locally can be incredibly beneficial, not only to perfect your craft, but to be visible in the community you're trying to target. The next thing is, do you have any demo recordings, or are they professionally produced with a music producer, or have you created them at home? If you really want to get a manager's attention, a great song will certainly do that. And my personal mentor throughout the process of me learning how to become a manager always taught me that a great song is probably priority number one. The other thing would be, I would say, certainly have a great bio, professionally written, photos, an EPK. Certainly, if you can get a website set up, make sure you do that as well. But make sure you're also evaluating these items and that they're on par with the people that you're trying to compete with, because you could get the attention of a manager with just a great photo or a great video snippet. And also, are you trying to make this a full-time career or a part-time career? That's a question you have to ask yourself too, because a lot of people get into it not realizing the demand. And it's important to also understand that most managers seek out talent and don't really like unsolicited contact. So I would suggest it's better to attend trade events or try to connect with the manager in that environment, music conferences, because they're kind of expecting you to approach them. And maybe you have connections of your own, but it's great to also talk to other artists as well. They could introduce you to some people. Some of my personal clients that I represent right now, they came from various avenues, but to be honest, none of them came from somebody emailing me. So I would always suggest be active and try to go to music conferences, as they can be a fantastic place to build your network. The other thing I would say is set small goals first. It's important to dream big. Setting small goals can be more achievable. If you want to sing in front of millions, first learn to sing in front of a couple hundred people. If you want to work to get to Broadway in New York City, first, get on your local city theater. There's stepping stones you have to take, and that's basically the only way you're going to get on to larger success. So now, what should you be looking for in an artist manager? And there is some debate about this question. And mine's always been a balanced one. I personally feel that with the current state of the industry, an artist truly needs to know what the actual business of music is inside and out. You may come across contradictory advice from other people where, it says artists should focus on only being an artist. But in all my experience, it's best for any musician or any performer to learn everything they can about this industry. And because, of course, the manager's there to lighten your load. And only once you've become really successful, you will have the opportunity to hand over the majority of the tasks to a competent team. But keeping that in mind, the luxury of having that costs money. So when you're starting out, you need to learn everything and every stage of this business. So with artist development, you need to educate yourself as much as possible, have realistic expectations about potential pitfalls you may encounter. As a manager myself, I do everything in my power to ensure that the artists I manage are well prepared within the current climate of the music industry. I try to provide them with the best practices on how to position themselves for success. And one thing I always say to my clients is you are the CEO of your life. So you need to be part of this journey every step of the way as much as possible. A good manager can help you achieve that. And the next thing, this may sound strange to a lot of people, but a manager should be able to make time for you. If they're far too busy, to speak to or to address any concerns or inquiries that you may have about your career, then maybe that's not the right fit for you. Obviously, this comes with an understanding that they may have other clients. I have lots of clients, and you got to respect that they have a lot of time themselves that they need to focus on all the other clients. So, a good fit for a manager should be also someone that's very excited about your music. Do they have a passion for the business when you meet them? If they seem disinterested or they lack interest in what you're doing, that probably isn't somebody that you should be pursuing. It either means that generally they don't believe in you, or maybe they're burnt out and jaded, and that can potentially be a recipe for failure. So if you're starting out, you got to remember then an established manager may not be suitable for you. They're typically searching for fee generating artists, and that's how they make a living in their music. So you could start off by asking a friend to help you, someone who's organized, motivated, and that could be valuable. And you could ideally learn and grow together and develop the right partnership working together. So the other thing I'd say, overall, a good manager should have knowledge of the current industry and trends, someone who spends time learning, someone who's constantly evolving as well, because the industry is, are they utilizing the latest technologies such as NFTs, or perhaps, sourcing the latest streaming options? You want to also consider a manager who has a good network of associates with both domestic, which is great, but do they have international ties? You want to ask these questions. How can that grow and develop your brand internationally? Investigate your manager's potential record. Maybe ask other artists. Have they secured any recent past or record deals? Have they connected with any major talent agencies or branding opportunities? Do they know any major radio representatives? Are they connected to top publicists? Not every PR firm will take your call, and they'll basically only potentially respond to you if you have a manager or if you are with the record label. So some of those things you need to consider, but can cause an interruption to your career if you don't figure those out. Big one too is, can you get along with this person? It's extremely important to have understanding and be in a relationship with this manager, because obviously there's going to be ups and downs, joys and stressful situations that you will most certainly have to navigate with this person. You really don't want to be arguing with your manager right before you go on stage for a major show. You need to get along with them. You certainly have to share the same visions and goals. Do they see you for who you are? That doesn't mean a manager won't give you advice, but you certainly have to be willing and open to hearing what they have to say. Obviously your visions and dreams are very important, but it's vitally important both parties are on the same page. Most importantly, a manager, we cannot fix everything. We cannot solve all of your problems. They are certainly there to help your career. So you'll have to grasp what your goals are. But importantly, then, remember, you don't need to rush to find a manager. One big frustration I've had with some clients in the past is I've found that I've been working harder than they have, and they're an emerging artist. Never let that be said about your work ethic. A manager cannot fulfill their abilities to their potential if you don't provide them with the tools they need to do their job, if you're dragging your feet. However, a manager also has to consider the mental well-being of their client in the current state of life's challenges that can be thrown at them. So the reality is there's also life outside of music, and they have to be aware of that. So, when you're creating music or writing a song or whatever you're doing, you have to basically devote the same amount of time and process to find a manager. It requires just as much effort. So I'm going to give you a list of, things that an established manager would want to see someone like myself if you are going to approach a manager to represent you. So the quality of your musical recordings, not bedroom demos. Professional photos, are they high quality? Do you have a social media presence? Do you have a professional website? It's always good to have your music hosted on there as well, or Bandcamp. Do you have live concert footage, something eye-grabbing that will impress a manager? Also, in your electronic press kit, there's all the detailed information about your subscribers, your YouTube plays, your active social media followers. Try and find a manager that understands the genre of music that you create also, because the last thing you want to do is be involved with a manager that doesn't understand the music you're working on. I've seen it often where someone's working in jazz and trying to represent a hip hop client. So go to local music events if you want to find a manager as well. You'd be surprised. A lot of managers go to events. If you don't live in a bustling city, you can go to a lot of open mics, seasonal performances, community events. You'll not only learn potentially from other performers, but you'll have the opportunity to meet people in the local music scene who can tap you in. Even returning fans or an event organizer could point you in the direction. So if you're having difficulty getting to events due to wherever you live, you might live in a rural area, and that's understandable. I suggest you use, potentially something like LinkedIn, social media. When looking for a first-rate manager, the process is certainly like dating. So don't be afraid to turn to the internet and use LinkedIn, because I find it's a great tool to inquire insights about the character of a person and what they've been doing. Certainly through social media, it's an informal method, of course, but you can find your managerial match by just finding common ground, by commenting on something, interact with them occasionally, and maybe even send them a direct message sometimes to gauge their availability. I've often seen this work with clients and artists talking to other artists, and it can be a fantastic tool, and it's available to you and to anyone. So the next phase is, what exactly does a manager do? What are their day-to-day responsibilities? I'm going to touch on a couple of things here that come to mind, and the first thing, which is something that I'm dealing with on a daily basis, is negotiating contracts. Right now, I'm dealing with a lot. A large part of artist management is advising their clients on business decisions and being able to negotiate on their behalf and explain to the client what's in a contract, and potentially even pointing them direction of a professional lawyer. So I've come across with too many artists who are signed in contracts and really have no idea what they've got themselves involved into. So remember that a manager also has financial stake in your success. So it's also in your best interest to let them soundly negotiate on your behalf, because if you don't make money, they're certainly not going to make money. So a good manager has to have good negotiating and interpersonal skills. Now, the next thing I would say would be marketing and image. The success for your career depends a lot on good marketing and branding, and your public image must be competitive, interesting in order to be noticed. Touring as a manager, I often work with a lot of record labels and booking agents coordinating touring schedules. So with that being said, you typically have to be very organized, have detailed planning skills. So that's the kind of quality you need to look for in a manager as well. Now, I spend a lot of time in this area, which is sort of nurturing artists and developing a relationship with them, and trying to hone in on what their sound is. So, bringing a collaboration together with other producers and songwriters that I am managing, or with other managers I know. And, a manager can only promote their clients if they have all of the necessary tools that they can use out there. So, as I said, with photos and stories, you can hire a publicist, a PR representative, and a good manager will have those relationships. Remember also to look for a manager that is good with a budget. because the last thing you want to do is go over a budget. They probably know a reputable accountant and can ensure that your finances are in order. The other thing I would say is media opportunities. There are many media opportunities outside of just performing on stage and recording music. You can land potentially on television and in theater and many other online options that are available. Now, there's the messy stuff also, which is handling, interpersonal conflicts with your band, stylist, whoever it is, tweets that you've put out there. You want to manage that as professional and effectively can handle sort of putting the fires out wherever they are required to do so. And now I'm going to touch in on packaging and presentations, being prepared for live performances. So if you want to get on that major show as an emerging artist, how do you get into a reputable music venue? So there's a myriad of things that you need to do. First of all, is figure out, what is your identity? Who do you wish to be, and what kind of artist do you want the world to see you? Are you one that sits and plays with a guitar or piano? Do you have a back band, live instrumentation with background vocalists? Or do you have a stripped down show with just you sitting in a guitar? This certainly will determine, the types of venues that are suitable for you. And a good manager can help you figure that out. One of the strongest components in an artist's live performance also is visuals. This may include lighting, on-stage images, other effects that are there to help augment to your performance, to draw your audience in. Yes, it's important to sound wonderful, of course, but you got to remember you're competing with your peers who set out to have the most entertaining show possible, and you need to rise to the occasion. So it's vital you capture your audience. And probably the most important component, of course, is actually your performance. And one of these things is knowing the lyrics to your own material. So believe me when I say I've had plenty of clients that have not always remembered their lyrics. So keep that in mind. And also, be true to yourself. Understand the register of your voice and your vocal capabilities. Don't try and oversing, and know your target demographic. Don't try and get into a country music bar if you're an R&B singer trying to land a gig. And so, yeah, demographics are everything. And remember, the promoter knows, the audience that he's looking for to enhance his event. So, one of the things is also don't be too pushy when trying to contact a promoter. It certainly can turn them off. You can't harass your way onto an event. I've seen this often where an artist will rub a promoter the wrong way and wonder why they didn't get the gig. You got to be professional at all times and mainly be patient. So remember, each time you step on stage, this is your profession. Although it's a fun one, you should remain professional like you would do at any other job. And in addition to those things, there are many other things to consider in a live performance as well. Now, technical requirements for your live performance. Some venues have a technician there on hand to help you to ensure your audio and cue and everything, the levels are right. Other times you'll work at a smaller venue and you'll be responsible for setting up your own equipment. And, having carried equipment for artists at the beginning of my career, it's beneficial to know how everything works. And if you can teach yourself that, it's an invaluable thing. Also, for artists who aren't completely confident in their vocal abilities, I would say seek out and get a vocal coach. There's many in your area, in most cities that have them. If you're going to be, the performing-ish you want to be, you've got to, get your vocals tight. So the other thing also is always be camera ready. Be prepared for impromptu photos, video opportunities. This doesn't mean you have to be picture perfect, but you do have to look good, and not, succumb to the ideals of what other people look like, but, be ready at all times. There could be someone there for some print publication, and you got to remember that music is your calling card, and your attire also helps to tell the story of who you are. It's certainly not about having top brands and what you're wearing, although it's nice too. I like to have nice things. But it's just about being presentable and polished, so you look comfortable in pictures. They last forever, and you want to look your best. So it's important to remember that even the event bookers promoting the business, they're in the business of making money and having a great show. So it's difficult for them to book you if you haven't established yourself and your name in the community where the event is being held. They need to sell tickets. So, which comes back to some of the things I mentioned earlier in the building blocks to your success. And lastly, rehearse, rehearse, and rehearse. Make sure you have a great location to practice. Run your show in its entirety. You can never do this enough. So secure a professional rehearsal space weeks in advance. Work with your manager to ensure that every member of the show can be present and is on time, has the sheet music, tracks well in advance of rehearsal. Never take for granted the opportunity, and remember and understand that the audience that's sitting there, that could be the first time they're hearing you. So you want to always put your best foot forward. Now, how do artist managers get paid? So I'm going to touch on this slightly just so there's no confusion, because this happens often. Managers get paid whenever you earn revenue from various sources of income. This can be from sales of royalties, publishing advances, as we mentioned, live performances, branding, sponsorship opportunities, as well as sync licensing, which is like having your song on a TV show. Managers generally work in the background, helping you to develop your career without the benefit of getting paid. So that's important that you pay them on time. There's some managers, not myself personally, but they take a monthly retainer to help develop your career. It's a personal choice as to whether you pay a manager monthly retainer, but they may want a consistent income while they're working on your project. So while you're still in the process of becoming a fee-generating artist, you've got to think about these things. Now, there are many other things to consider. So you got to proceed with caution when hiring musicians, background singers, dancers, stagehands, clothing stylists, and of course, managers and agents. So remember all of those fees and expenses have to be covered. Becoming a professional singer certainly doesn't happen overnight. Be patient. Never be the kind of artist that bounces from manager to manager. You have to give, these relationships a lot of time to flourish. The process takes time and a lot of work together. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my knowledge on the music industry, and certainly from my bird's eye view as an artist manager. I'm always open if anyone wants to reach out to me and send me a message about any questions pertaining to their career. I'm certainly open to it. My information is right there. You can follow me on Twitter, or you can DM me on Instagram, and I would be happy to help. Look, I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, feel free to jump right in right now, and I would love to engage with all of you. So start your questions now. Let's go. Hey everyone, how you doing? So Rebecca, honestly, there was a lot of music on Spotify and Apple Music that is incredibly successful that are cover songs, and like millions of streams. In fact, I've seen people like cover like an Ed Sheeran song, for example, that came out in the same year. So if you don't have any material or any songs, like just finding great cover songs is definitely an option. And me personally, what I would say would be to get a track maybe that people aren't entirely familiar with. That's just my personal thing. But and if you're comfortable going ahead and doing a popular song and trying to make it your own, I think that always works, especially if you have a really cool or interesting arrangement. I think that always works. So for sure. Anyone else? I would love to hear from anybody, so that would be great. If not, it was a wonderful opportunity to be on here today and share some information that I have and my experience as a manager. So as a manager, this is from Christina Smith, how do you navigate collaborations for an artist who doesn't write their own music? Well, again, if you're working on a collaboration, I'm thinking about particular projects that I've worked on. Teaming up with another artist manager, the other artist that's collaborating may write the song, and that certainly always works. I'm thinking of a particular record, I cut in Philadelphia with Glenn Lewis and Melanie Fiona, as an example. That was, written by a Philadelphia producer in that situation, but Melanie wanted her input on the record as well, and it worked out great. So I think, you have to, talk to the other artist that you're doing the collaboration with. Unfortunately, if you're not a writer, then you're probably not going to get any writing credit unless you're an established artist. But it certainly can be done. And if you want to, message me and ask me further questions about that, that would be fine. So yeah, I see, Natalie, you were particularly asking about NFTs. Obviously, NFTs are a new thing, and having non-fungible token as as this new interesting technology. I think, the greatest thing about that is it creates scarcity, right? So if you're going to have a song if you have it works really well, mainly I think if you have a fan base though, right? So if you have a fan base, you can sell them an NFT and they own that. You can have them own it particularly. You can have a set limited amount, and it's something that can never be duplicated, like an MP3, and it will always hold value. It's like you think of like the Mona Lisa. There's always only going to be one, and that's the exact same thing. You can't get ripped off with an NFT. The technology is incredible. Joseph Kane, who is your favorite artist and why? Well, I have a lot of artists and I listen to a lot of genres of music, but Stevie Wonder's always been probably my go-to. I listen to Stevie Wonder a lot. I love Marvin Gaye, but I love a lot of new artists as well. I like Frank Ocean. Obviously, the clients I've worked with, I love all of their music. I don't want to list them all and forget anyone, but certainly I love all of their music, and they're all important to me. So, yeah, but in all genres, though, honestly, I like, Radiohead even. I love Tom York's voice, so it's kind of all over the place. Natalie M., what can some of your best practices when negotiating a contract as a manager? Well, I think, it's making sure you really understand what's in that contract first, because I've been in situations where an artist is really pushing back on something, and and they get frustrated and upset, mainly because they're arguing against things that are industry standards. So you really want to make sure that what you're pushing back on is not a standard thing that another manager or a record label is asking for. uh, you certainly can, hope you're always, I would always negotiate. I've never just signed a contract. I think anything is worth asking. At the worst, someone could say no, or you find middle ground. But I definitely think that you should always try and, get the best deal that you can. But if it's a major record label, you certainly want to get a lawyer involved, as well. That's something that you would definitely want to consider. So Sharon Hines, hi Sharon. Where would an artist go to find a good manager? Well, I think if you are performing out and you're landing on events, definitely a lot of managers I know go to events. I'm here in Toronto, and obviously not with the pandemic. There hasn't been anything, and God willing, everything gets started back soon. But there's a lot of events. I see managers, sometimes I see them at open mics. I see them at different venues throughout the city, and they're there, especially even after a show. Like if you go to a venue that has more of an intimate vibe, chances are the manager is going to be there. If you're trying to talk to a manager that's obviously at an arena or a stadium, you're probably not going to get to meet them. So one of the things I said earlier too is, using LinkedIn, reaching out to people, using Instagram. A lot of my clients, even for collaborations, they message other artists, and man, you'd be surprised. People respond, and some big artists respond to things if they like what you're sending them. And it's all in your approach, and and being polite and respectful when you're trying to talk to people. And who would I say the top? Okay, no, I'll go to Lamar Ferguson first. What is the best age to start working with a manager? Well, if we're going to kind of sort of get into the whole thing about age, there's the legalities of signing contracts too with minors. So you've got to think about the fact that a parent's going to be involved, and really the best age is really when you have the support of, if you're young and you have the support of your family. That's something that you're going to have to work on together, because whether you're a young singer starting out, and a lot of great young singers, I think Justin Bieber, or you look at Brandy when she came out, they were all very young. And if you have family there to support you and working with the manager in those kind of situations, you can start as early as a young teenager. It's definitely possible to start, but you got to make sure you have people around you that care about you and are looking out for your best interests, because we see it, all these disaster stories, where young artists are working alone with managers. You need family there and support. And Sharon Hines, in regards to what are the top 3 managers in Toronto, including yourself, I probably can't answer that, and I wouldn't want to say that. There's a lot of great managers. Toronto is an incredible city for the arts, and some of the greatest managers in music are in Toronto right now. There's some really incredible, bright minds and talent and not only that are working with artists now, but are from the past. Even they're a lot of them are in LA now, or New York or London, England, and they're doing big things. So I definitely would say that there's a lot of options for managers. Hello, Natalie. So what are some of the most important things that an artist should invest in when it comes to their marketing material, photos and videos? Personally, I'm going to say that it's probably photos. I think having professional photos makes a big difference, and putting together a nice electronic press kit. Videos are great if it's like your live performance. Having music videos, that's a pretty big expense unless you can afford it. So, but if you're going to create really cool content, and it's, try and have those little snippet things that are for, Instagram or TikTok, that are affordable. Just come up with really cool creative ideas. But, doing full blown music videos, is definitely, a big expense that I don't always recommend an artist does, unless, you go out and you're able to secure some funding. But definitely stick with photos. Ophelia Davis, have you ever managed an artist from Europe? I have to think about that. I'm actually managing somebody right now from Paris, actually. So yeah, I do, and he's got a project coming out, and he's got some fantastic music. So yes, I do. What is the best way? This is from Christina Smith. What is the best way to build a relationship with your prospective manager? How do you build the relationships that you have with prospective clients? Good question. Look, it's about really spending time together and talking. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, that it is a relationship, because you're going to be, on the road, spending a lot of time together with your manager, eating out at restaurants, especially if you're a solo singer. There's so much time that you end up being together. So I think that's really it. It's time. You have to invest the time. And if you're dealing with a manager who doesn't have time for you, unless he's a top tier manager, someone, example, like a Scooter Braun, or someone like that, where they can just plug you in, sure, that would be great. But outside of that, I think, it's spending a lot of time and having a lot of conversations. Joseph Bonsu. Hi, Joseph. What do you think is the best method in conflict resolution when dealing with artists? I think listening, to both sides always, matters. Listening through, and I find, you jump in, when let's say as a duo, and they're having a disagreement, you make sure you listen to, the angle everybody's coming from, and you try and because I always find it's like being in a relationship. It's like, and sometimes people just, the message is getting lost, so you have to kind of like connect the wires again, and somebody's saying something and somebody really doesn't understand what they're saying. And I find that, having an outside perspective, and you're standing there and you're listening, you can relay, what somebody's trying to say, even if they're, they may have come off offensive because of their personality. You can relay it in a way that is, more palatable, and find common ground. It works so well. What is the easiest way to become a full-time songwriter? And that's from Aurora Riwu. Sorry, Riwu. My apologies if I said your name incorrectly. To become a full-time songwriter? Well, I think it's obviously getting your songs placed, finding artists to sing your song if you are not an artist. Trying to meet different artists at different shows, talk to them, and let them know that you're a songwriter, and you have material, and getting those records recorded. That would probably be the biggest thing. And then, if you're going to take it to the next step, then you want to try and pitch those songs to a publisher, because, publishers have what they call as look lists, and artists are always looking for records. So they have a list every month of tons of different artists that it's like, oh, Jason Derulo needs a new song, or whoever it could be, as I said, like an Ed Sheeran, or somebody like that. So then they go through all of the music that they have and catalog that. But the only way you can do that is by trying to get those records recorded. So if you can find a way to get people to cut those records, that is the biggest thing. Find a great singer if it's not you. All right. What is my favorite genre of music and why? Again, I love all genres of music. I grew up on being a Canadian. I grew up on rock music, of course. We all did who lived here before we had any black music radio in Canada. So that was a big thing. I loved all of those 70s rock records that came out. I'm huge on hip hop. Love R&B, and but I love classical music too. I love jazz, and there's a wide range of different music that I like. It's all over the place. If you saw the people I followed on Spotify or Apple Music, you'd have a good understanding of that. This is from Alan. What are your thoughts on instrumental adult contemporary albums today in this listening audience? Yeah, it's still a big genre. It gets tons of radio play. So, it's again one of those things where it's finding the right songs. I think that there's a lot of places where music is played like that. Certainly on streaming, there's a lot of opportunity to get instrumental music played. It's just a matter of getting high quality recordings again and being able to pitch them in Spotify for artists, or with your distributor if you've got a great distributor for your music. But there's a lot of opportunity, and don't forget, like with even instrumental. With adult contemporary, there's sync opportunities on television and and movies that is endless. Even commercials and advertising. There's a lot of money to be made in those. So yes, I would say there is. Is there an artist that you would love to manage or work with? If I'm going to have a wish list. I don't know. I love the people I'm working with now, and I always love the music that they deliver to me. I don't work with people that I don't like their music. So I wouldn't say there's like a target of anyone that I want to work with. It's I love working with young artists too. Interestingly enough, I love seeing them develop and. And not even necessarily with young artists, just up and coming artists. It's exciting to be part of that journey with them, and it kind of gives me a fire, to know, as you accomplish goals and you build together. It's a really cool feeling to be able to do things and grow with them. Is there any other questions? I really do appreciate everybody coming in and asking some really great questions, and hopefully I said your names correctly. And thank you for the time to come in here. And thank you, Fenella. Shout out to Fenella for giving me this opportunity to be here. And the Black Diamond Ball, RBC, Puma. Appreciate it. So if there's isn't anyone else, thank you again for joining. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, certainly my social media handles were in here on Instagram and on Twitter, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well. All my information is there, and I always love to hear from people. So looking forward to to hearing from anybody. If you're a great artist, I always want to hear from you. All right. Have a great evening. And thank you, Fenella. You're awesome. I love you. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.